Hey, Edith.
Hey, Christy. What's the matter?
You know, back in my day, you could cough to cover up a toot. Now with COVID-19, you toot to cover up a cough. Hi, I'm Christy.
And I'm Edith. We're backyard gardeners from Colorado.
And neighbors.
And friends.
These days, gardening has gotten very popular.
And we've noticed more and more people picking our brains for tips and troubleshooting about gardening.
We're not experts. We just learned a lot about gardening from the mistakes we made along the way.
So welcome to Upside Down Tulips,
a fun podcast that celebrates gardening gone wrong.
Upside Down Tulips.
Upside down tulips. Upside down tulips. Welcome to Upside Down Tulips.
Thank you, Whitney. A special welcome to those who are in their garden right now.
Today we're going to talk about fall transplanting and read some letters from the mailbag.
All right, but you know what, Christy, first, can I say something that I saw on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to be 14 again and ruin my life differently. I have new ideas. You know what? I just thought that was really funny.
Yeah.
And I think that we need some, may I just say that I think I'm not alone. We're reaching the 6-month point, and it's starting to wear on me.
Yeah.
You know, garden or no garden. And I think it's the same with a lot of people. It's just starting to wear on us, you know?
6 months.
6 months, Christy. So we're going to just try to keep everyone's spirits up and ours as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need the humor as much as everybody else does.
Yeah, we do.
We want to ruin our lives differently.
I have new ideas.
I know.
Because now I'm a grown-up. I got way better ideas.
I know.
How to ruin my life.
I think that's so awesome about 14 too.
Yeah,
I
do too.
It's like we're gonna tip the table over and we're gonna try something different.
That's right.
Because Lord knows we need to try something different.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, how was your week in your garden?
It was a good week in the garden. I'm harvesting vegetables, and all the little seeds I planted last week when we talked about fall planting,
Yeah.
they all sprouted.
All of them? Did you plant spinach?
Yes, the spinach is up, the radish, the lettuce. Oh, the carrots aren't, but carrots take a little longer.
They're so
I've always
slow.
find to germinate, but they're all up and they're happy. And today is, Edith.
No, I
Today, I
Thursday?
saw this.
No, what?
It is. Yes, it is. We record this on Thursdays.
She's quizzing me, folks. She's just putting me on the spot.
Today is the last hot day.
Oh, yes.
Friends,
for a while, for like 5 days.
Friends, it's been in the 90s forever here.
Not just the 90s, 95 and above for
Yeah.
17 straight days.
In the Denver metro area. The entire state of Colorado is now considered to be in a drought.
Yeah, a serious drought. Yeah, the worst in the country.
Tomorrow, the high is going to be 85.
So happy. Monday, the high's going to be in the 70s.
And that's why it's so perfect that we planted
Yes.
seeds last week, because it's starting to cool down and they won't fry.
That's right. And the next when it gets cooler, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do things like remulch and do the heavy work that it's just too hot to do.
So true.
So I've got it all planned out.
I have some beautiful flowers blooming in my yard right now, too, that I always forget that they will bloom in August. It's always good to have some plants that will bloom this time of year. So right now I have blooming my Chinese asters, which you saw as you came into our pod studio in my basement.
They're really beautiful. I don't know if I've ever seen them before. They're really beautiful, Christy.
They're an annual, and they reseeded themselves from last year. And I kicked myself a little bit because I should have moved them because they're very tall. They're like 4 feet tall, aren't they, Edith?
Yeah, they're very tall.
And of course, where are they? Way in the front of the bed. Hiding my red bird in a tree, and hiding the Veronica, and hiding the Rudbeckia in front of all of those
Okay, now that
plants.
you brought it up, can I just say that last week when you kept saying red bird in tree and you left out the indefinite article?
Yes.
I just had this flashback to Lone Ranger and Tonto. I kept thinking, why is she talking? Really? Redbird in tree, not redbird in a tree. So when I got home, I Googled it and I realized you just left out the A.
It is redbird in a tree.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And here's a sad note about my redbird in a tree.
Uh-oh.
So here I was trying to take a picture of it so I could put it on Facebook so people could see what it looks like. Because isn't it a cute little plant?
It's a cutie
It looks
pie.
like little red birds in a tree.
Mhm.
And I swear to heaven that I only moved it just a little bit and the branch that was blooming broke off in my hand.
No. Oh, Christy.
So
Didn't we discuss way back in episode 1 that you had to be delicately rough?
delicately rough.
You're way too rough
I was-
out there.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in a vase,
Good.
the little branch. And I'll get more flowers, but it was
Sure.
somewhat funny.
Sure you will.
And I also want to give a shout out to Blue Mist Spirea. That is, it's like a periwinkle blue flower that is blooming all over my yard right now. Bees are so happy.
Good.
I love that. And I'm so happy every year that I plant calendula. Do you plant calendula?
You know what, Christy? I'm not like really all that knowledgeable about flowers.
I disagree. You have a ton of flowers in your yard.
Have you noticed how paltry they are and how putrid and
They
how
look
puny?
good.
No, you really haven't been over for a while.
Well, I was
No.
just over last week, and you were showing
In
me
the
plants.
back. That's right. In the back, I have one little place that's nice. A calendula. I don't have them this year.
It's
I
called
think I
a
know
pot marigold. It's an annual, and I have them growing in front of my vegetable bed. And if you deadhead them nicely, they bloom all summer long. They started blooming in the end of June, and here it is August. They're going to bloom until the first frost. You can collect the leaves. These are edible, and I will take the leaves and I will make calendula oil out of them, which you can use to make lotion or lip balm.
Oh, man.
So I'm happy about having calendula. And so
Gee, I always thought it was calendula because that's actually in the deodorant I buy. Calendula.
Oh,
it's calendula.
I think it is.
It all
Well, I
depends on
don't
where
know.
you put the. I'm sure you're right. It all depends. Well, of course, redbird in tree.
Right.
I shouldn't
Or
be
is it
so sure.
Agastaki or there's some people call that plant Agastaki or some people call it Agastache.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I told you. All right, that's fine.
Not that knowledgeable.
okay. And of course, the really big news in my garden is that this week in my yard and in your yard, I applied milky spore.
Thank you for doing that in my yard. Thank you.
So,
Let's remind everybody what that is and what's it for.
Japanese beetles have really hit the Denver metro area. Last year, I didn't have any. This year,
They're everywhere.
they're everywhere. And they can strip the foliage off of your plants in no time.
Yes.
And then their larvae will feed on your lawn, leaving ugly brown spots.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't kill the plants. They just are a pain in the butt.
Well, they're just gross, really.
Yeah.
They're just gross. They get in your hair. One got in my hair. You
That's
don't want
right.
that in your hair.
One got in your hair
No,
last
you don't
week.
want it in your hair. So, yeah. So anyway, you came over and you had this garden hack you made up with a broom.
There is a natural bacteria called milky spore that I bought on Amazon, and it is will give Japanese beetles a disease when the little grubs are about to burrow into the ground,
Yes.
and it will kill them. And when it kills them, it also spreads more milky spore. It is not harmful to pets or plants or humans. It's a total organic way of getting rid of Japanese beetles. It's very powdery. You can't use it with a hand spreader or with those little push spreaders. You have to actually get down in there and apply a teaspoon every 4 feet on your lawn, which I'm not about to crawl around on my hands and knees with a teaspoon. So I happened to go on YouTube and saw a couple people who had made some hacks out of it, and then I sort of adapted it to make my own application, because you can buy a milky spore applicator, but I'm not going to spend another $20 on something that I'm only going to just use once.
I totally get it. I totally get it. I mean, I could buy a car, but I could also walk,
Yeah, right. Yeah. Excellent point.
No, it was cool. I loved what you did. I really did.
What I did was I took a container of, this was just in my pantry, of of Panko breadcrumbs. And so it was a little container, kind of similar to maybe like a stovetop stuffing container or maybe like a Pringles can. And I emptied it out. And in the plastic lid, I poked about 15 holes, good sized holes in it. And I put the milky spore in it. I put the lid on it. And then I taped it upside down to the bottom of a broom, not to the bottom of the broom, but like 4 inches above it. We'll have pictures that we'll put on Facebook and on our Instagram for it, so that you just walk every 4 feet and you give the ground a little tap.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that in my yard, and then I went to Edith's yard and I did her yard, front and back.
Mm-hmm. The neighbors were agog. Look, somebody is sweeping Edith's backyard.
Yeah, with an upside down broom.
Oh, yes, it must be upside down tulips time. Yes, well, thank you very much for doing that. Milky spore is also in our dictionary that is on our website if you need a refresher.
And we'll find out if it works.
We will. Not until next year, but we'll find out.
It's not going to prevent Japanese beetles from flying into our yard next June, but we're going to prevent the grubs from coming up in June.
We hope.
And just hanging out where they are.
If
somebody's going to come into my yard, they're going to have to travel.
There you go. There you go.
Nobody's squatting.
Nobody's squatting.
And so that was what's going on in my garden. How about you?
Well, my garden. I finally took out those cauliflower that never had a cauliflower on them. You know, all leaf, no head.
The clock was ticking on those.
So disappointed. You know, like in Texas, they say all hat, no cattle. You know, all buckle, no belt. Mm-hmm. That's what it was going on with my cauliflower. So
Too many freaks, not enough circus.
Too many freaks, not enough. Oh, I love that. So I took them out. All of the stuff that I planted, same stuff as you, it came up as well. I have been harvesting peppers and zucchini, and I finally gave up on trying to cage my zucchini plant. I took the ladder away, and he kind of went fa-boom. And just like spread everywhere, which is fine. That's okay.
It was a great idea.
It was a good idea
to see if you could get the zucchini plant to trellis up.
Yes,
and not spread all over your yard.
And finally, my tomatoes are getting red.
Oh, good.
And thank you for supplying me all this time.
Well, you know, I'll supply you when you need it, Edith.
Thank you. I really need it. Oh, I needed it. Thank you. That is what friends are for.
Well, I'm glad your tomatoes are there. It's nice when you can go outside.
Yeah.
And pick your own tomato, huh?
So what are we doing this week? What are we talking about this week?
We're going to talk about transplanting.
Transplanting? Oh, good. You know what? Let me weave in the theme, because we're trying to transplant our minds to a happier place.
Yes.
Right?
Nice.
Aren't we?
Excellent.
We're being all philosophical here in the basement.
Nice.
Thank you.
And this our life exempt from public haunt finds tongues in trees, sermons in stones, and good in everything. One touch of nature makes the whole world kin.
Will Shakespeare, quit being poetic and just weed the garden.
Yes, Anne. I merely hold, as it were, the mirror up to nature.
Just pull the weeds, Will. And don't pull up the beans like last time.
Yes, Anne. To weed, or not to weed? That is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the seeds and clutches of outrageous bindweed, or to take arms against a sea of weeds, and by poisoning end them. Out, damned weed!
Will, stop! That's the spinach.
Oh. Sorry, Anne.
Tough day in the garden. Have a cup of Calm Tom's high tea. No longer just for afternoon high tea in a pricey restaurant. Calm Tom's high tea is for any time in your very own kitchen. Calm Tom's high tea. Organic tea leaves, our love, and a little something extra goes into every tea bag. Edith,
Yeah, hello.
when was the last time you moved?
Myself?
Yeah.
Probably 22 years.
Yeah, for me, it's been 20 years. And the last time we moved, we said never again because it sucks.
It is horrible. It's just horrible.
Is there anybody who says, I'd like to move?
I've never heard of a person.
It's a terrible
No,
experience.
No, yeah.
And I think the same is true for plants.
Oh, yeah.
They don't like to move, but sometimes it's good for them.
Yeah, but they're all cozy in their neighborhood. They know where the sun is going to be. They've got their little dirt all around them. Same dirt always. Of course, they don't want to do that. But tell us why. Why is it good for them sometimes?
Well, sometimes they get crowded.
Of course.
And then they don't do as well.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I've planted something in a place where it overgrows its spot and it's taking over.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it's not doing well.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of reasons why you want to transplant, why you want to move your
So
plant.
if it's not doing well, maybe it's next to something that needs more water than it needs. Is that
could
what
be,
it is?
Yes.
Or it's in too much, different plants need different amounts of sun and so on.
Right, and maybe the tree that you planted underneath is now bigger and creating more shade.
Trees do that. Gosh darn it, they just get, in 22 years, my trees have gotten so big. It's
And
really
sometimes
funny.
just moving a plant out of the design of a landscape can open up a lot more possibilities.
Sure. Who doesn't like possibilities?
Have more room for something else. That's one of the reasons why I give away a lot of plants when I'm dividing and transplanting, and people think I'm being so generous, and really I'm just being selfish because I just need more room for other things.
No. Being selfish would mean taking those things and throwing them on the compost pile.
Oh,
You're very generous in that, and
thank you.
it forms a sense of community. You get to meet people you otherwise wouldn't get to meet, and you don't have to have a garage sale to do it.
good point. Thanks, Edith.
You're welcome.
Well, no matter where you live in the United States, fall is probably the best time to transplant and divide perennial flowers.
Mm-hmm.
The air is cool, the soil is still warm, which creates the perfect combination to transfer over anybody.
Exactly. And if you don't want to do it too late in the season because then it'll freeze, because we know the cold is coming. So you need to transplant it at a time when it can adapt to its new home.
About
Right?
2 to 4 weeks before the first frost.
Okay.
And our first frost here in the Denver metro area is around October 5.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are in the end of, oh my gosh, it's the end of August already.
End of August, yeah.
So this weekend is a great time. Next weekend, if you have plants that have
Labor
been
Day
seen
has
there-
always been a marker for me.
Oh, that's such a
Memorial
good
Day
point.
and Labor Day are markers for me in the garden. Yeah, plus, nobody invites me to parties or picnics, so why not just stay in the garden?
And there are no parties or picnics to go to, even if you were invited.
There you go. So now I don't feel so bad.
That's right.
Yes.
And another important aspect about when you transplant is that you shouldn't transplant any plants that are in bloom.
I
So-
didn't know that. I did not know that.
You're going to lose their bloom. So plants
Are you
that
going to kill them or just lose
just
the
lose
flowers?
the flowers. Yeah,
Okay.
you lose the flowers. So plants that bloom in the fall, you should transplant in the spring, and plants that bloom in the spring, you should transplant in the fall.
Oh, that's very good. Well, that's real good. You know what I noticed in my yard today, in my garden? 2 little salvia plants. They reseed like crazy. They're about the easiest things I've ever seen to transplant. I can transplant them no problem.
Nice.
As long as they don't, I try not to let them know they're being moved, by taking a big old hunk of dirt around them, not exposing the roots.
Yeah.
I have the other hole already ready.
Good. That's right.
I've watered it.
Mm-hmm.
Let the water soak in, so it makes a nice little, it's like a real estate agent prepping a home. Look this is your new home. Oh, there you go. All nice and cozy and wet. And then you bring it, you stick it in there, and then you might want to put, some other dirt around it, and then you tamp it down.
Tamp it down.
Right. Always.
Yeah.
That means not smacking it, but that means, of course, you know what tamping means. What am I saying?
You want to get rid of the air bubbles.
That's what you want.
Air bubbles? There won't be bubbles. Air pockets.
Pockets. Air bubbles.
it's so true about the hole. The hole is one of the most important things, is that you should dig the new hole before you move the old plant.
Yes.
And you should dig a $10 hole for a $1 plant.
Yes, that means a bigger hole than the plant is.
And it usually means wider. You don't have to go much deeper than what the plant was at, but you do want to go wider. And also true about making sure you get as much earth and soil around it as you possibly can, so that its naked roots are having a little trouble. And try to get as much root as you can when you dig it up.
And also, I also mulch it right away.
Yes.
Especially like, in the
Mulch
end
it.
of the summer. Mulch it.
3 to 4 inches, not around the crown of the plant. You got to give it a little breathing room. And you also don't, you don't need to improve the soil at all.
Yeah, just move the little guy.
Don't put compost in or don't put potting soil in, because what you're doing is that you're tricking the plant, and the plant thinks, oh, this is all I'm going to, you want to encourage the plant to root out into the new territory of the yard. So if you improve the soil by putting in potting soil or compost, it's just going to it's going to be afraid to go into the other areas.
Oh, wow. No,
You're spoiling
it.
it.
I did not know that. No, I didn't, spare the rod.
And you may need to prune it a little bit too. Sometimes that's helpful because you want to, and especially because it's fall, you want to encourage it to take its energy into the roots.
Of course.
So cut it, you may want to cut it back a little bit.
You know what I noticed, Christy? Sometimes, I'm not the best transplanter in the world, but sometimes I notice that it's droopy for days, and sometimes I'll get impatient and cut the whole thing down, and I shouldn't have, because it takes days sometimes depending on the plant.
They
right?
can get wilty, especially if you're transplanting in the spring. I always say, until it's dead, it's not.
Oh, wow.
That's deep, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Until it's dead,
yeah.
it's
Going
alive.
to your dark place now. Okay.
Yeah, until it's dead, it's not. And you will need a little extra water. And it's hard, though, because it's that fine line of you need to water it. You need to make sure it's water, but you don't, at this time of year, it depends on where you live, of course. You don't want to overwater.
But when it's in the 90s, Christy.
Yeah.
Then it's...
If I was transplanting now, I'd put lawn chairs over it.
Okay.
To give it some shade.
Yeah.
But you got to stick your finger in there a good 3 inches to find out if you need to water it or not. Another good test is the brownie mix test, which is that if it looks like dry, if the ground around your new plant looks like dry brownie mix, you need to water it. If it looks like wet brownie mix, then leave it be.
Leave it alone. Yeah.
And you should also not fertilize.
Because you want it to seek
In the
out,
fall.
you want it to, roam the desert, as it were.
Yeah.
Seeking salvation.
In the spring, it's okay to fertilize, but in the fall,
because it's going to sleep soon.
you want it to send its energy into the roots, and you don't want it to grow at all.
Very good.
So
very good. Well, what you're telling me basically is I bought a hibiscus.
Oh yeah, I wanted to hear about that.
Well, he doesn't look so good, but I didn't do any of the things you said. Oh my gosh, I put a lot of water in the hole. I put seasoned horse manure in the hole. And he's not looking good.
Well, I should also give the disclaimer here right now is that I'm sharing best practices. Do I do all this all the time? I mean, I got to say sometimes we should do it. You should water the day before. Also, do I always water? Sometimes I just get, I'm in the mood like this plant is going right now, and I will dig it up and I forgot to dig another hole for it.
Christy, would you say that the smaller the plant, the higher the chances of success?
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I have found the most success with when like with little salvia, when it's little echinacea, when it's seeded itself, it's so easy to move.
I think you're right, because it probably is sending so much energy up into the stalks and to the larger part of the plant.
And you're not disturbing the roots because the roots are so tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, when they're little. And, if you go to a nursery right now's a great time to buy perennials. And they usually have them on sale because they want to get rid of them.
Right.
And you can also probably talk them down, too, if you want to barter a little bit. I've done it at Home Depot before.
Oh, wow.
Or Lowe's. At a box store, you'd kind of say, look at this plant. Do you really think...
this doesn't look good.
Do you really think, and I just think I think I can get that plant back, you get some, or certainly, but we of course encourage you to go to your local garden, your local nursery.
Yeah. We have to take, not have to, we want to take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
I think it's gonna rain, Will. Will you weed the corn before it does?
Yes, Anne. Once more run to the breach. Oh, blow, winds, and crack your cheeks. Rage! By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Hail! You cataracts and hurricanes, hail no more! You have drenched our green beans, battered the red tomatoes, and drowned the potatoes. No! Cry woe, destruction, ruin, and decay.
Will, get in here out of the storm. Come on, I'll make you some nice hot tea.
And a poultice, please, for my battered head, Anne. Ow. Oh, woe for the garden.
It'll grow back, Will. All's well that ends well.
Really tough day in the garden? Have a cup of Calm Tom's very high tea. No longer just for afternoon high tea in a pricey restaurant. Calm Tom's very high tea is for any time in the comfort of your own kitchen. Calm Tom's very high tea. Organic tea leaves, our love, and more than a little something extra goes into every tea bag. Hey, we're back.
There are certain plants that are best to transplant now.
Like what?
Well, the large one is iris.
Oh, yes, dividing the iris. I have to divide my iris.
Transplanting iris.
Right.
And I have iris all over my yard, and I think you have my iris all over your yard too.
Mm-hmm.
About every 3 years, you want to divide iris. I just divided a bunch this year, and there are certain things that are important to know about transplanting and dividing iris, which is you should cut the leaves down to maybe about 6 inches.
Now, is that whether you divide them or not? Is that what you do for iris for the whole winter? I've always wondered about that.
I've done it before. I think it makes the garden look a little tidier.
What about the stalk? You know how the stalk, the dead stalk in the middle, you cut that away?
As soon as the flower's done, I nip it away.
You nip it away?
Yeah, because it makes it look a little tidier.
Okay, but I'm also talking about the health of the plant. So, because the plant uses the leaves to feed itself.
Yes, you
right?
shouldn't get rid of all the leaves.
Right.
But right now, if you wanted to cut them back because it's fall to get the energy to shoot into the roots, it'd be okay.
Christy, I think people meaning me, since I've never, divided my iris. Will you explain exactly what you mean by dividing? Like, start with digging the hole and getting down there, and then talk to me.
Yeah, I take a pitchfork, a little spade, and I put my foot into it, and I pull up half the plant. You'll know it's time to divide your iris if they're not blooming, or if they're not blooming as well, if they're in a circle, and in the circle is a bare spot.
Okay, and it's not just a root. They have the big rhizomes.
They have a rhizome.
Is that right? It looks like a
Yes.
tuber.
Yes, different than a tuber, but it's a rhizome.
Different than a tuber. Mm-hmm.
And the rhizome, you shouldn't bury it. The rhizome should be just above the ground.
Just above above?
Yeah.
When you divide, then you have the rhizome, you're putting it above the ground?
Yeah. I've done this before where I thought, oh, I have divided these iris and I'm going to find this little spot over here that's just perfect for them. And I lay them out and think, yes, this is great. I will plant those tomorrow. And then, as we know, as somebody who's left their tomatoes in the attic for 10 months, I forgot. But bless those iris, they overwintered.
Oh my gosh.
And they took root. I didn't even plant them. They were just flat on the ground.
So you're saying on purpose not
you should need to plant them because there's roots on them, but the very tops of the rhizome should show.
Oh.
So if your iris aren't blooming or they're not blooming very well, because sometimes if you put mulch, don't mulch your iris.
Don't?
Nope.
Okay, this is all good. I honestly didn't know any of this. This is great.
You know what else is also good to divide this time of year? Oh, daylilies.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that we had that letter from somebody.
Yes, from Mike. Mm-hmm.
Yes, who had all those. Yeah, so it's a great time of year to divide. You don't want to divide them in the spring. If you divide them in the spring, you're going to lose the bloom.
Yeah.
And you have to wait a year.
Never lose the bloom.
Peonies, also a great time to divide peonies.
They hate to be moved, don't they?
Yeah.
Peonies hate to be moved. You know, speaking of trees getting really big, I planted 2 peonies like 15 years ago. They're now deep under the tree and they hate me.
Oh.
They hate it there. Should I just put them out of their misery? What should I do?
You can give them to me.
They hate to be moved, but I'll take them out.
It.
Well, why
yeah,
not?
now's the
right?
time to do it.
They were beautiful.
Yeah, now's the time to do it.
Okay, Christy,
but a lot
I'll do
of plants
that.
hate to
I'll
be
do
moved.
that.
Then they go, oh, we moved, now it's better. If they're unhappy there.
Oh, they hate
I wish
it.
I had peonies. I had peonies in Minnesota. Oh my gosh, they were so beautiful.
They are beautiful. I love them. Okay, I'll dig them up for you.
I'm always surprised that they do so well here in Colorado.
Not for me, but for other people.
Yeah, not for you.
Thank you again for rubbing that in.
Aw.
Here's the wound. Here's Christy with the salt. Shake, 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 shake.
Oh, and by the way, here's this knife. Let me twist it in your back.
Aww.
Do you have bleeding heart?
Oh my gosh, it didn't come up this year. And I
Oh.
love that. Oh, I love that plant.
That's a good time to divide bleeding heart right now, too.
See, I didn't even know you could divide them. Maybe I killed it by not dividing it. I love that plant.
I've never had it before, but I've always wished I did.
Oh, they're just beautiful. See, I'm not good with flowers, despite what you think. I'm
They
not.
like shade, don't they?
Mine was in the boiling hot sun.
Oh, okay. There you go. So it was a hot bleeding heart.
He was a survivor, though. He lasted for quite a while. Yeah. I'm going to have to get me another one. I love those plants.
Now is also a good time to divide lily of the valley.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that.
Mm-hmm.
Also Veronica, which is weird because I've transplanted a lot of Veronica this
Not a
spring. And it turned
magician's
out okay.
assistant, is she?
No.
Get it?
You know I have the
Get it? Sawing her in half.
Fighting
Veronica.
And now the lovely Veronica will come here and assist me with my latest magic trick.
What do they call it? Transdigitation? What do they call magician's fans? Prestidigitation.
Oh,
Prestidigitation.
nice. Oh, good.
What else, Christy?
I'm just thinking about in my yard the things that I need to kind of get out there and divide up. I'm thinking my Veronica, I'm going to transplant, move that around because it'll reseed. It'll grow in places I don't want it to.
We don't like that. Boy, oh boy.
Now, there are some things that also, no matter when you transplant them, fall or spring, that are just hard.
Yeah.
And I would say one of the most difficult things to transplant are poppies.
Oh my gosh. That makes me feel like so much less of a failure, except I have a huge success story. Okay, so I had these seeds that I got from a neighbor, and I threw them in a pot in the spring. And it turned out they looked like moss. They grew so much that it looked like moss. So you said to me, take a plug, just take like a teaspoon of them and plant them. So I did that and they died. So I thought, okay, I'm going to
That was really good advice. That worked out really well.
They were too little. So I put more dirt in the pot and I left it alone, watered it every day. Christy, in every little section, one poppy grew really strong amidst all the little baby poppies. So I took 3 sections, divided into 3, and I planted them, and I am going to have poppies for the first time in my whole life.
I'm so happy for you.
And I did what you said. You said just plant the whole bunch, let them fight it out, you said.
It's called clump o seedlings is the technical term.
I didn't know
It's
it
for
was
the winter
techni-
sowers out there. We know this term. When we
Okay.
winter sow in milk jugs, you plant by the clump o seedlings, and it's survival of the fittest.
And that's exactly why I cannot wait I don't even know what color they are. I cannot wait to
Because who
see.
wants to go take a tweezers, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work, and they're happy there. They're and poppies have a real long taproot,
Oh, good.
so
good,
that's
good.
why their plants have a really long taproot. Are really tricky to transplant spring or fall.
I think that I've always been really scared of transplanting. And once I started doing it with most things, I found it to be not that hard.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Allow yourself to fail a couple of times. What do you got to lose,
Yeah.
right?
And if the plant wasn't happy where it was,
It's going to die
know.
anyway.
yeah,
Shorten its misery.
that's right. Put an end to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Get it better real
But
estate
maybe
or whatever.
you can get like
Yeah.
a cheap perennial. You can go to a garden center right now and see what's on sale and give it a shot.
Or you can also, make seeds or winter sow, which we'll do a whole nother episode about that. But I thank you, Christy, for all this information. I really feel like in the next 5 days when it cools down, I'm going to be doing some transplanting.
Everybody's got to move sometime.
That's right.
Hey, guess what?
What?
It's time for mailbag.
Ring, ring. Okay. Our first letter is from Jenny from Wheat Ridge. Am I a gardener? She says. I used to think so when I lived in the Midwest. One could simply drop a seed in the soil and voila. Not so in Colorado, where the air is dry as chalk, the ground is left over desert and volcanic seafloor, and moisture comes in 5-minute monsoons accompanied by golf ball-sized hail. She's got it down, doesn't she?
Yeah, I got to stay on your toes around here.
I know I am lacking as a steward. I am more of a mulch manager at this point. I ponder plants that have dissatisfied me in some way. As they dwindle and start to show their neglect, I ponder what I can, quote unquote, renew that space with in the future. I have found that only those plants that reseed themselves prolifically, naturalize and expand, or just show up on their own accord bring me satisfaction. Naturally, I feel a pang of guilt, as if I am, quote, selectively breeding, unquote, the beauty of our planet, all because I lack an affinity to care for them. What if I looked upon my own family or pets this way?
Oh, no.
I ponder as I intentionally skip over those that displease me with the hose.
Oh, nice.
Now that's very honest. I admit I do that sometimes. I admit it.
Yeah.
We hate to admit it, right, Christy?
Well, I feel that's the story of my hydrangeas.
That's right.
I was
That's
throwing...
a deep scar, Christy.
Yeah,
That's a deep scar for
throwing
you.
away money and trying to make something live that wasn't going to live here.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't until I embraced what is native to my community and also looked towards xeriscapic plants. And the plants will tell you what they want to do.
And you know what, Christy? I love I'm a gardener like Jenny. I like things that reseed themselves and just take over. I'm not much of a planner. I'm just like Jenny. Thank you for
Nice.
that letter, Jenny.
Thanks, Jenny.
Christy, do you have a letter?
Yes, I do. This is from Doug from Tennessee. Last year, we decided to grow collards, a popular southern green. We brought a set of 6 collard seedlings and planted them. Unfortunately, we didn't do our due diligence in learning about collard gardening. The darned things grew to about a yard in diameter each and provided so much greens we were taking multiple bags of them to church each Sunday, pushing recipes on folks who weren't sure how to use them, and even took a big bag along with us when we went to visit an elderly uncle of mine in Alabama. By the end of the growing season, we were actually rooting for the cabbage worms just to get rid of the collards.
Christy, you know what I'm going to do?
Huh.
I'm going to grow collards next summer just for shade. Instead of using lawn chairs, just take a yard in diameter.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I hope that people aren't avoiding Doug as he, here comes Doug.
Oh,
with
no.
his collards.
Look the other way, everybody.
That's like zucchini, too.
It's exactly like zucchini, yes.
When you have so many by the end of the year, you just can't make anything else with them.
Your neighbors will not look you in the eye.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug.
And speaking of zucchini, our inspiration comes from Facebook. Teach a man to fish and he eats for a day. Teach a woman to garden and the whole neighborhood gets zucchini.
Boy, that's weird timing.
Isn't that nice the way that worked out?
That was freaky. Hey everybody, thanks so much for listening. If you want to get our new episodes right away without having to search for them, please subscribe and follow us where you like to listen to podcasts.
And if you have someone in your life that you think would like this podcast, do them and us a favor and let them know about it.
Special thanks to Denise Gentilini for composing and performing the Upside Down Tulips theme song. If you'd like to hear more of Denise's music, go to denisegentilini.com and you can find that link on our website.
And thank you to our friends and talented actors Benjamin Bonifant and Jamie Ann Romero.
And don't forget, if you make a mistake,
Your garden will forgive you.